Coming up, while South Korea's decision to deploy the THAAD missile defense system on its soil continues to draw opposition from China, the top diplomats from Beijing and Pyongyang hold talks in Laos, pledging to work together to improve ties. The Democratic National Convention kicks off in Philadelphia, but the fallout from the party's email leak continues, with supporters of Senator Bernie Sanders taking a hard turn against Hillary Clinton's campaign. German officials says the Syrian suicide bomber who injured 15 people in the country's southern city pledged allegiance to the Islamic State militant group in a video found on his mobile phone. Stay tuned for these stories and more. It's 6 a.m. on Tuesday, July 26th here in Seoul. Welcome to our newscast. I'm Hwang Jie. Thank you for joining us. We begin over in Laos, where a series of high-profile regional meetings are being held. South Korea's Foreign Minister Yoon Byung-se is working the diplomatic levers to keep relations with China steady in the wake of the decision with Washington to deploy the missile defense system THAAD to South Korea. Kwon So-ah follows this report from Laos.
While South Korea's Foreign Minister Yoon Byung-se and his North Korean counterpart had a short encounter during which they reportedly said they were glad to see each other, it was a different story for North Korea and China. Pyongyang and Beijing's foreign ministers held their first bilateral talks in 2 years on the sidelines of the ASEAN Regional Forum, the only security forum that the North Korean delegation regularly attends. The beginning of their meeting was open to the media in what's being seen as a rare gesture. Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi congratulated his North Korean counterpart Lee Yong-ho for taking the foreign minister post. According to a North Korea official, the meeting took place as part of normalizing communication between the longtime allies. Pundits say South Korea-China relations could go downhill, while North Korea-China relations move up. China has been adamantly opposed to the deployment of the missile defense system THAAD to South Korea, a stance shared by North Korea and Russia as well. Meanwhile, Minister Yoon reaffirmed his ties with the U.S., especially when it comes to North Korea issues.
So I believe this is the right time for us to send out a very clear and strong message to North Korea that our alliance is stronger, deeper, and broader than ever.
I'm very grateful to our friends in Korea for their very significant contribution in so many different global issues at this point.
Seoul's chief diplomat Yoon and his Japanese counterpart Fumio Kishida agreed that South Korea-Japan relations have improved in recent days since the landmark deal on Japan's wartime sexual slavery issue last December. With these developments, there are concerns that a South Korea-US-Japan versus North Korea-China-Russia diplomatic structure is forming. Kwon So-ah, Arirang News, VNTN.
Meanwhile, the top diplomats of Asia-Pacific countries urged North Korea to comply with all UN resolutions that call for the regime to give up its nuclear and missile ambitions. After talks in Laos on Monday, the foreign ministers of the 10-member countries of the Association of Southeast Nations adopted a joint statement that clearly indicates their willingness to maintain peace and security on the Korean Peninsula. The statement also underlines the importance of resuming the long-stalled six-party talks, which could be key to denuclearizing the Korean Peninsula in a peaceful and cooperative manner. Tensions remain high on the peninsula after the North conducted its fourth nuclear test in January, which led the UN Security Council to adopt the toughest ever sanctions imposed on the regime. Now, there is a new concern regarding the THAAD deployment, whether Seoul and Washington will be sharing information obtained from the radar of the American missile defense system with Tokyo. Kim Hyun-bin has the story.
Seoul and Washington say they will not share with Tokyo the information obtained from the THAAD missile defense system to be stationed in South Korea. The remarks come amid speculation that the system will eventually become part of the larger missile defense system operated by the U.S. and Japan. A South Korean government official said Monday that under a trilateral agreement with the US and Japan, South Korea is obligated to share information on North Korea's nuclear and missile tests with Japan, but that the information from the THAAD radar won't go to Tokyo. Another official pointed out that it won't be effective to share information on an incoming missile in its terminal phase. The THAAD battery is scheduled to be deployed to Seongju County before the end of 2017, and it will be operated independently by the US forces in South Korea. The deployment has raised concerns among Seongju residents about the electromagnetic waves emitted by the THAAD radar. The Defense Ministry on Monday reiterated the system poses no health risks.
The THAAD radar will be on high ground and far away from the closest village. The radar beam will be emitted at a 5-degree angle or higher, so it'll do no harm to humans or the environment.
The spokesperson emphasized that the electromagnetic waves emitted by the THAAD are higher than that of the Patriot system, but lower than the Green Pine radar system, both of which are currently in operation in South Korea. The military showed the Patriot and Green Pine system to reporters earlier this month, taking several electromagnetic wave readings from 30 to 100 meters away. The readings were a tad higher than normal, but the military assured the public the system poses no health risk. Kim Ha-bin, Arirang News.
Volkswagen Korea was given the chance to defend itself against accusations that it faked documents to gain sales certificates to the Korean government at a hearing on Monday. According to our Kim Ha-sung, no matter how favorable the outcome, a sales ban is a given for the German automaker, which is knee-deep in emissions rigging scandals.
Audi Volkswagen Korea appeared at a closed-door hearing held by Korea's Environment Ministry on Monday. Johannes Tammer, managing director of Audi Volkswagen Korea, along with other senior executives and 9 lawyers representing the case, attended the 1.5-hour-long hearing at the National Institute of Environmental Research in Incheon, west of Seoul, to explain the carmaker's position on the government's push to suspend some of its car models. This comes 3 days after the automaker announced that it will voluntarily halt sales of 32 models starting Monday. The Korean government has been moving to enforce a sales ban on the vehicles in question, including the Golf, the Jetta TDI, the Audi A6, and other diesel and gasoline models from the group, saying test documents for emissions and noise levels were fabricated to win over certifications.
We would like to sincerely apologize for causing the controversy. We will fully explain our position and closely cooperate with the Ministry of Environment.
The German carmaker denied any manipulation of emission levels, but according to the Korean government, it did acknowledge making an error on test documents.
How can there be a mistake on test documents while no manipulation was involved? We will look into the matter and decide in about a week whether to order a sales suspension or not.
If the certifications of certain cars are revoked, the automaker will not be able to sell those models in Korea until they are renewed. Kim Ha-sung, Arirang News.
This summer just might be the hottest on record since the World's Weather Agency began collecting related data around a century ago. In Korea, temperatures have soared to record highs, causing a rise in heat-related illnesses. Kim Jung-soo reports.
The Korea Meteorological Administration predicts that the current heat wave will continue through the first week of August, with the highs likely to surpass the 24 to 26 degree range recorded during the same month last year. The daily average for the entire country from July 1st to 20th was 24.3 degrees, which was 0.5 degrees higher than the same period last year. It was also the third highest reading since 1973. The KMA says the average temperatures for the month of August will also surpass the 25.1 degree average recorded back in 2015. The news is particularly alarming considering how there has been a sharp increase in heat-related illnesses. The Jeollabuk-do Fire Safety Headquarters announced Monday that more than 14 people in the province have collapsed from heat-related illnesses since June. There have not been any deaths as of yet, but doctors have urged people to stay indoors when outside temperatures are over 30 degrees Celsius.
I would advise people to avoid direct sunlight for more than 20 minutes straight. Keep yourself hydrated as often as you can, and I would also discourage alcohol consumption at nighttime, since that actually elevates body temperatures and can aggravate heat-related illnesses.
Meanwhile, the weather agency has issued another heat wave advisory for the capital city of Seoul, prompting people to cool off around the Hangang River.
I had a day off today, so I came here to get away from the heat. I work mostly outdoors, so I can really feel the heat increasing day after day. My clothes get so drenched in sweat that it gets really discomforting.
I would say that every summer, I've been experiencing a little bit difficult times. So it's very humid here in summer, this is for sure.
With the weather agency predicting that the heat wave in Korea will continue into August and possibly even into September, it appears that Koreans will have to find more ways to stay healthy during the long and grueling summer season. Kim Jong-soo, Arirang News.
Over in the United States, the Democratic Party kicked off its four-day national convention on Monday, but things have gotten off to a rocky start amid the fallout from a recent email leak. Earlier in the day, supporters of Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders booed loudly as he declared his support for Hillary Clinton, saying that electing her is necessary to defeat her Republican rival Donald Trump. The party is scheduled to formally nominate former Secretary of State Clinton as its candidate for the White House on Tuesday, and she will deliver an acceptance speech on Thursday. The party has been embroiled in controversy after 20,000 emails appearing to show party leaders working against Sanders were leaked on Friday. The FBI has opened an investigation and is working to determine the scope of the matter. The Syrian asylum seeker who bombed the town of Ansbach pledged allegiance to the leader of the Islamic State militant group. The Bavarian interior minister said security officials had found a video on the attacker's phone that captured the pledge, and it also showed the 27-year-old man declare a revenge attack on Germany. Other Islamic video contents were discovered on storage devices at the attacker's home, along with various materials that could be used to make a bomb. The interior minister said that an investigation into the content of the videos is still ongoing, but based on the evidence so far, the attack was likely an act of terrorism motivated by extremist Islamic beliefs. This week in July 1953, the hostilities in the Korean War were brought to an end with the signing of an armistice agreement. Today, no peace deal has yet been forged, and the armistice has been forgotten in the minds of many. In the first of a three-part series by our Moon Gan-young, she takes a look at what's left behind 63 years after the ceasefire.
At the very end of South Korea sits Baekyeonri village, a tiny farm town on the edge of the world's most heavily militarized border. It may seem like any other farm village in the country, but the eerie silence here reminds you, this is no ordinary town. This is where no civilians are allowed, merely 4.5 kilometers from the military demarcation line dividing the two Koreas.
The village was planned and built as a settled district, modeled after the Israeli border village of kibbutz, based on the slogan, "Fight while you build and build while you fight." That spirit still lives on.
Upon a special presidential order in 1973, this town was built on war-ravaged land with 40 to-be-discharged officers and 40 native families of the area.
There are still a lot of live mines buried all around here. The residents of this town never wander off to places where they're not familiar with. They always take the same route, even though all the landmines inside the village have been removed.
76-year-old Lee Chang-hun was born and raised here in Changdan-gun County until the Korean War broke out. He was 10 years old. He came back 20 years later as one of the 40 native families.
Sure. Every night, the company commander would hand out rifles from the ammunition depot. Then with firearms, we would go to our guard post to stand duty throughout the night.
Military training wasn't limited to men, he tells me. Men and women were trained with live ammunition and maintained their readiness at all times. In the face of real threats, the residents of this frontline village know exactly what to do as they drill the evacuation an innumerable amount of times to this shelter several meters underground.
A huge siren goes off and an emergency announcement is made. Then the residents know it's time to evacuate to these underground bunkers.
This windowless room can fit 200 people, and the storage area holds enough water and food for a few days. Last time they had to evacuate was last summer when the two Koreas exchanged heavy arms fire after 2 South Korean soldiers were maimed by landmines. So why stay here? Why stay in this town?
I'm 76. Where would I go? I'm not anxious and I've never thought of leaving. If there's a clash between North and South Korea, we're all ready to fight back. I'm determined to protect my town.
Moon Gon-young, Arirang News, inside South Korea's civilian control zone.
And that brings us to the end of our newscast. Thanks for watching. I'm Hwang Jie. We will be back throughout the day with more newscasts. Goodbye for now.